Hello and welcome back to this damnfully dualistic crusade. I wanted to talk at least a little bit about one of my favorite passions in terms of fictional characters, and that, of course, is the Knight of Darkness himself, the Shadow, because I've been really enjoying the incredible fan magazine that started up recently, The Shadowed Circle, which has done 3 issues for last year and is prepping up for their 3 issues for this current year. It is a wonderful fan magazine. I've never actually subscribed to a fan magazine before. Of course, I knew of them and I've read some, but it's sort of part of it's really sort of something from a sort of bygone era in the day and age of the internet and ebooks. So something this well put together by people who really care. You get that sense of caring and love and affection for material that doesn't really get discussed in this day and age, unfortunately. So this is a magazine that is fan operated. It is full of contributions from fans. They're always seeking articles and artwork and basically anything you want to contribute. But it also has pieces from the acknowledged experts. So Will Murray pops up in here a lot. It doesn't just talk about the character, it talks about the world, the setting. Of course, there's a lot about the pulps themselves, the original pulp magazines and creator Walter B. Gibson, but also Theodore Tinsley and Bruce Elliott, the other authors of the Shadow pulp magazines. But it also talks about the radio series. There's articles comparing the pulp and radio versions, which are extremely different. There's also been interviews. They've done material on the unfortunately really crummy recent James Patterson book, but it was interesting getting the additional context around it. But it's also filled, again, with fun little comic bits and great artwork. But also there have been pieces on the comics. So here in Volume 2, they opened with a great article on the fantastic Hitler's Astrologer, which I have the original Denny O'Neil written hardcover here behind me. So there's also a great deal about the comics in addition to various pieces on the Shadow's impact. There's also been some really great pieces on the actual historical settings, so pieces on the actual locations in New York that obviously inspired elements in the stories in both the pulp and radio versions, which was a fascinating idea. Also, great discussion of the actual development of the stories, Street and Smith Publications, how the pulps were written and designed and edited, also how they fit in with the other classic Street and Smith characters, particularly the creation of Doc Savage, who is really the brother series to the Shadow. And of course, bits and pieces on the many imitators, basically the whole industry of imitators that the Shadow spawned once the pulp magazines really took off in success. This is issue 3 with beautiful artwork detailing the Shadow with his suction cups going down the side of a building. What I found most rewarding about issue 3 is that it has a piece by Will Murray about his on-set experiences witnessing the shooting of the 1994 film, which for me, and I know a lot of people my age, was our introduction to the whole notion of the character of the Shadow, and is still a very underrated film, even if it is not really doing the pulp Shadow. It sort of does bits of the pulp Shadow and the radio Shadow in a screenplay written by other people that mixes in other elements. So while it's not an out and out true Shadow experience, it gets a lot of things right, and it's a nice blending of the radio and pulp Shadows, and it's still unfortunately very underrated. The other big draw is they got Michael Uslan to do an interview. This is part 1. Part 2 is going to come in one of the later volumes, but Uslan, of course, is the famous executive producer of the Batman films, the man who really got Batman 89 made after a multi-decade saga of buying the rights and then not being able to get anyone to listen to him. He's one of the great comic historians and authorities, and not only wrote for Batman, but wound up writing some of the issues of the famous 1970s DC relaunch of the Shadow that is still the definitive Shadow in comics, I think, and it was a cornerstone experience for a lot of people of that generation. So that's what first introduced the character and the world of the Shadow and his agents to kids in the late 1970s. So it's great getting his particular experience with the character and writing for that iconic comic arc that unfortunately that has never been reprinted. So I keep hoping, but who knows? Maybe someday they'll work a deal with Condé Nast and we'll get a beautiful reprint of the 70s DC Shadow comics. But until then, you still have to try and keep your old copies safe and secure as you reread them constantly. But again, this is just, it's a beautiful fan magazine. You can get it in both print and ebook versions. Again, they are transitioning over into their second year, so they're already doing a subscription offer. That's how I got these. And to be honest, it's not terribly expensive. They have gone up a little bit, so I think for the next 3 volumes of really wonderful magazines, it's $40, but that includes shipping. Of course, that's to the U.S. It's a little bit more if you're going to be if you're obviously in another country, but they do offer international options. But for completely done by hand in terms of it's a collaborative effort of putting together a magazine, getting the articles, getting really wonderful artwork, putting this whole thing together. $35 or $40 is not a lot of money because this takes a lot of work. And again, when you get the physical print versions, they are soft covers, but they have a nice finish to them. They are very nicely printed. The artwork for the covers is custom, and then they always do something interesting on the rear. I really love the rear cover of issue 3, which compares some of the pulp magazine covers, showing you the Canadian variants that actually drew from different U.S. editions. I've stared at this for a long time because it's a really fascinating thing to look at. And they'll do little things like this and just, to them realize, hey, the back cover is really interesting. So again, the quality for what you're getting is really something. And if you're not a fan of the of print materials, they are available in e-versions, which are a little cheaper as well. But again, it's just a really remarkable thing to get in your mailbox. It's only 3 volumes per year, but it's been a real pleasure getting these in the mail and then coming back to them because the articles are so nice that they're going to be nice little reference volumes to go back to and thumb through where you're like, hey, I think that's in volume 2. Let me thumb back through there and pull it off the shelf and try and find that article I'm thinking of about that one particular aspect. And also, when you get a book in the mailbox with art like this, it just makes your day better. It just does. So this has been a real pleasure as a ever growing Shadow nerd, because again, it's not like you can discuss this material on a daily basis unless you're in one of the Facebook groups talking with other fans. So it definitely has that sort of special club feel because you get it in the mail and you subscribe. So it's like when I was a kid, there were a couple magazines I would get, like Star Wars Insider in the 90s, and it was like a special little parcel in the mailbox, and that connected you to other fans in the outside world. So it's been a real blast getting these, and I highly encourage anyone who's a fan of the Shadow or classic pulp characters, definitely check out the Shadowed Circle. It's literally, I believe, theshadowedcircle.com. They're also on Facebook. They have their own Facebook group, but they have started already doing their subscription drive for year 2. So you can sign up and get the next 3 volumes. And again, it's now gone up to $40, but that includes shipping. So it's not a bad deal, and you can go with ebooks if you wish. It's a wonderful magazine. It's going to be a constant reference for me and anybody interested in the character who gets these. These are really well put together. It's definitely a labor of love, and that makes it all the better, I think. So I just wanted to highlight the Shadowed Circle magazine. It's a wonderful treat to get it in the mailbox 3 times a year. I wish it was more. but again, I know how difficult it is to I mean, I can't even imagine trying to do something like this myself on my own. So it's definitely a labor of love. It takes time, it takes care, it takes money to do, but it's an absolute treat getting one of these in the mail. I can't recommend them highly enough for Shadow fans. If you're a Shadow fan, you probably already know this, but I felt the need to spotlight it in a video because these are so well done and such a joy to read. And I will enjoy continuing to get subscriptions for as long as they do the magazine, and having these as wonderful reference books for the Night of Darkness on the shelf. So if this piques your interest at all, I highly encourage you to go check out theshadowedcircle.com, look at their website, maybe get a subscription and get some of the wonderful year 2 issues that are coming up in your mailbox, and have a nice pulp surprise in your mailbox every once in a while. So as always, I hope this has been fun and at least somewhat informative. I always try to spread my love of the Shadow anytime I possibly can, trying to encourage others to embrace the magic of the stories of the Night of Darkness, whether you prefer the pulp version, the radio version, the comics version, or the 1994 film. It's all part of the same Shadow realm. So to all fellow agents, I say thanks ever so much for watching.